Hey you guys, so this week's topic is going to be tips on how to find the right childcare for yourself. Now, if we lived in a perfect world, then all moms would stay home with their kids. But as most of us know, sometimes it does take two incomes to support a family. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I'm very, very blessed, but the only reason why I'm able to stay home is because my husband does have a great job. And on top of that, we have no mortgage or rent. Now, we did move here in '04, and my father-in-law really helped us out big time with this place. So we now actually own where we live at. So we have no note. If we were to have a note like that now, with having 3 children, there would be no way of getting around me going, or no way of getting around me going to work. I would have to go to work. I wouldn't be able to stay home with my kids, if we had a mortgage or rent. So I am very, very lucky in that sense. Now, I'm sure if you ask most moms who work while they work, I'm sure 99% of them are going to tell you they work because they have to, not because they want to. So sometimes you have to suck it up and you have to do what you have to do. So I do understand that not all moms can stay home. And, I don't know. I just feel really, really lucky that I'm able to stay home with my kids. Now, there may come a point in time to where you are going to have to decide what type of care is going to be best for you. Now, there is nanny services, there are in-home daycare services, there are daycare centers. I'm sure there are more, but those are the 3 that I'm more familiar with. Those are the ones that I did my research on. When Alexis was 2, now she did go to daycare because I did decide to go back to school for nursing. So, of course, my first option was family member. However, I have no family members here, and the only family member on my husband's side that was even capable of taking care of a child would have been my sister-in-law who worked. So that was out of the question. I had no choice. So the first thing that I looked into, of course, was nanny services. Now, a nanny service would have been what I would have went with, hands down, if money wasn't an issue. So the pros about a nanny service is going to be they come to your house. Your child is in the same environment, which may make the transition a lot easier on them. Not only that, but your children are going to be the only ones being watched by this nanny, which means that there should be no reason your child isn't getting the attention they need. And of course, your nanny over time is going to sort of feel more like a family member than just someone watching your child, and that's just my opinion on it. Now, the only con that I could come up with, of course, would be the cost. Now, I would still suggest doing a background check, and I would also install nanny cams throughout the house. I just feel that nowadays you can never be too safe, and I have a really hard time trusting other people with my children, just because you never know when they're being real or when they're acting, and to me, my kids are too precious to take that chance, so that is what I would do. So I definitely would have went with nanny services. But when I looked into it and the price, I was like, checked off the mark, or off my list. The second option you have is going to be your daycare centers. Now, this is the one that we chose. We chose a state-owned daycare, and in my opinion, in my experience, your state-owned daycares are going to be more your top-of-the-line daycares. They are going to have more rules and regulations. So, to me, I think those are better. So, I would definitely check out your state-owned daycares first. And that's just, like I said, my experience. Now, what I did whenever I was looking for daycares, I did get the phone book out, and I wrote down every single daycare center there was in my area. I wrote down the cost after I called them, and also their location. And then I started with the ones that were closer, to the area that I was going to be in. I didn't want something to where I was going to have to travel 20 minutes, to the other side of town to get to my child. So that is what I did, and I actually come across a really, really great one. I did look at a couple. I didn't stop just at my first one, but most of them that I looked at were like the big open floor plan, to where they had just like sections, and it was like divided with the half wall. And in each little section were several ages, like 1 to 3. I didn't like the fact that my 2-year-old was going to be in a room with a 3-year-old. So that sort of kind of worried me. But now the one that I wound up going with, like I said, was a state-owned. It was like a school. You walked in, you had your hallways, you had actual classrooms, and each classroom had one specific age. You had your infant room, your 1-year-old room, your 2-year-old room, and your 3-year-old room. So I really, really liked that. Not only that, they had cameras in every room. That really, really made me feel more comfortable leaving my child with someone else, because I did have cameras in every single room. Plus, you know, they did crafts. It was more like a school than anything. Like I said, they didn't have a TV in the corner constantly going like some of the other daycare centers that I looked at. This one actually had a TV on a cart that was unplugged when not in use. And when you first started, they did give you a list of, you know, like their breakfast was at 8. Their snack time, their TV time, their play time, their craft time, their music and reading time. You know, so they did all that, and it was really, really great. Because it was more like a school, and it was more teaching than anything. So that was awesome. Now I do know they did crafts every day because my child brought home something every single day when I picked her up. Now as far as like lunch goes, now they did send home a menu for a whole month, let you know what they were serving for breakfast, snack, and lunch. And if there was something one day that your child didn't like, or you didn't want your child eating, you could definitely pack your child's lunch. They did not eat lunch in their rooms or their breakfast. They actually went down to the lunch rooms, and of course your 1-year-olds stay in the room because it's harder to get a bunch of 1-year-olds, you know, to go down to a cafeteria and sit on, you know, same kind of seating arrangement is going to be when your child starts school, you know, with the long tables with the little bench. So your 2-year-olds did actually leave the rooms, but they did eat snack in the room. They had an awesome playground area. They had a huge basement downstairs, so when the weather was nasty, they were able to go down there and ride tricycles and, you know, bounce on the big bouncy balls, things to that effect. So really, really nice. Let me see if I forgot anything. Now, it was 3 stories. You had your basement, you had your middle floor, and your top story was where the 3-year-olds class was. And then there was also 2 actual preschool rooms up there. So there were actual classes going on up there. So really, really like that. Everything was like a school. Now with her daycare, she could not bring a sippy to daycare, just because they didn't want a child running around and falling and busting their mouth, and then they didn't want children sharing and spreading germs. So they did have little water fountains out in the hall, so they did have water breaks and stuff. And that was the only daycare that I went to that had that rule about sippies. So I really, really like that. Now, as far as like payments, we paid weekly. If you were full-time, you paid $60 a week per child, and if you were part-time, you paid $3.50 an hour, $3.50. However, if you wanted to hold your spot, you had to be full-time. So if you were only part-time and someone come in and was needing child care for full-time, they were going to bump you, and of course your spot would be gone. So that was the only down to that daycare, but I understand if I had a business, that would definitely be something I would consider. So, you know, that's just my experience, you know, of daycare. Now, the only con that I can think of, and of course I'm talking about my experience with my daycare, is going to be the hours. They're open Monday through Friday from 6 to 6. There are some moms out there, or even some dads out there, you know, that work on the weekends. They don't have a Monday through Friday job. What do they do with their children on the weekend? You know, I don't know. To me, that's weird that daycares are closed on weekends. Now, the last option I want to talk about is in-home daycare. And for me, that was my last option. And the only reason why that was because my sister did have experience with it. She had experience with 3 different in-home daycares. And I did take that in consideration when I started, you know, choosing what I would rather go with. Now, when my mom or her would pop up early to pick up the kids, they started noticing that the children wasn't being taken care of correctly. And that was with all 3. Now, with each 3, there were different, you know, areas of concern, but however, her children wasn't getting taken care of, especially to her standards. So they are now in an actual daycare center. That may not be the case with every single one of them. I know that. And in your area, you may have awesome in-home daycares, but sucky daycares. But in my area, I really didn't research too much as far as the in-home daycare and the cost or anything to that effect, because I don't feel comfortable with someone else watching my child in-home. And the reason being is because, to me, it is easier for them to put on a front. It is easier for them to, you know, be the nicest people to your face and be so loving and kind to your children when you're around, but as soon as you walk out the door, you never know what's going on. That may be the case as daycare as well, but my daycare had cameras, you know, so that is one of the things that I took in consideration when choosing my daycare. Now, I guess the cons or the pros of the in-home daycare are going to be, you know, like the nanny. They're only going to have one caretaker, so they are going to be able to create that bond. And there are going to be fewer, you know, I think it's like 5 to 1 person. So if she already has children, there, you know, may only be a couple more. But at the daycare, there were only 10 in the classroom because there were 2 instructors in a room at all times. So it's still 5 per person. Not only that, but your in-home daycare, they may be more willing to work around your schedules for those moms who work weekends. I don't quite know how that works, but they are probably going to be the ones that are going to be more willing to work with you. I know a daycare center that has set hours. They're not going to work around your schedule. They're not going to make someone come in just for you. So I get, you know, that sometimes, you know, in-home daycare has to be your choice. So like most of the other moms have mentioned, I would just trust your gut, and if your child is old enough, you know, get their input as well. I would definitely Google reviews, and we have a website called topic.com that is basically a gossip website, but it never hurts to check it out. You can type in a search bar the name of the person you're considering, or even the daycare, and any comment created on that page is going to pop up. Now, if there are going to be several negative comments, you know, with the one you're leaning towards, I would definitely take that in consideration. And yes, I know that what everybody puts on there may not be the whole truth. They may be mad and just, you know, flipping at the lip. You know, you never know. But I would take that into consideration. Now, and the biggest thing for me, and that really helped me, was just making a list of things that is non-negotiable and go from there. You know, make a list of things that you are definitely not willing to give up. Like for me, an example would be cloth diapers. I would definitely have to choose a center that would be willing to use cloth diapers. And that's just an example. And that's, to me, is not maybe the most important one. But for people who have different lifestyles, who are vegetarians or vegans, whatever, you know, that of course is going to be on the top of your list. So I would definitely make priority first, and then go from there and start checking off and find a place that is going to give you all of your priorities, something that you're not going to have to negotiate. So I had fun yakking with you, so thanks for watching. Can you say bye?
Bye.